Hey geeks, Jenny from Geek Queen. Today I want to talk to you about blogging. So what I'm going to do today is actually run you through how to set up your blog, how to add your posts, what you should be paying attention to, your settings, everything like that. So let's just log into our editor. So I'm in my editor here and I'm going to come over to the blog on the left hand side. Now, when I open this up, I can see on the right here is all my blog posts, and on the left is just like a little mini menu. So you can see we're in Manage Posts because the little arrow is pointing to that. We've also got blog settings, the layout, and import posts. Now let's just go to blog settings first. Okay, so the blog name up here, this is just what you can call your name. I've just called it articles because that's kind of suits me better than blog. And then down here, this is your RSS feed info. So RSS is actually a particular type of format that all blogs are laid out using, which means that any type of feed reader can read the information in those blogs or about those blogs. So this is actually where you're going, this is the information you're going to put in. Now you should fill this out always. So even if you kind of think, oh, I don't use that, that doesn't mean someone else who's following you doesn't. So in the title here, you can see I've just put my business name and then just what it is, news articles, tips and tricks for your website. The blog description, I've only used one sentence. You could possibly use two, but this doesn't have the importance that your meta descriptions do on your pages. This is actually just going to be when your blog is displayed in a feed reader, it's probably the first line is the only thing they're going to see anyway. So if you have this kind of done quite well, a nice concise sentence about what your blog is about, that will suffice. And then down here, your thumbnail, I've used my logo. If you were a cooking blog, you might kind of use your favorite recipe photo there or something like that. And this is your RSS feed URL. Now, you won't need this right now. However, if anyone ever contacts you and says, I can't find your RSS feed, this is it here. You cannot edit it, so you can't change it. And it looks I guess it looks kind of, not great because it's /feed/RSS2, but no one's going to care about that. It doesn't show up anywhere, so it's fine. And if you want to get it, all you do is you just click the copy button and it will copy that to your clipboard, and then you can just paste it in your email reply or whatever you need to do it. So that's where you're going to put your settings. Okay, now our layout is a little bit different. Every time we come into this layout, this will pop up. It doesn't matter how many times you've edited it. I thought it would just do it the first time. It does it every time. It's fine. Just kind of press got it. Effectively, what it's telling you is that this layout here is what every single post on your website is going to follow. So we are going to have this column up here, this row up here with the post title, all the published date and the little search box. Now you can see because I'm hovering on them, I get the little blue connected. So I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. And then I've changed mine to be 2-column, so I've put like a search box here, a connection thing, and some kind of shop articles and that down the side there. Now you can see how this is grayed out? That's where your actual blog post is going to go. So while you can't edit that, so you can kind of click on it, but see it says to edit this content, open the post. So this is where your posts go. So this means is that anything here that is editable, this is all editable, that is going to appear on every single post, and then your individual post subject and text and images and everything is going to appear in here. Okay, so like this section up here, what you might put here, I've obviously just used my share tokens and a header in here, but this might be where you declare your affiliate information. So if you put affiliate links in your posts, legally you're supposed to declare that before people read it. So typically you might just see a one line of, I do use affiliate links, it's no cost to you and I only recommend things I love, blah, 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 with a link to the full affiliate disclaimer. So that's what you might put up here. And then that would appear on every post. So this is going to appear on every post that I post. But don't forget that up here is still all my header information. And then this is where all my post information is. And then underneath here, I could put, what might I put? Actually, you know what? I might put a second share this because by the time they get to the bottom of my post, I might put discuss comments. Okay, so if we go to widgets, for example, we can have, sorry, I just need to find it. Discuss comments. Okay, so you can put Facebook comments in here or discuss comments. So I'll just show you how this would work. Now, all you need to have signed up with Discuss, and then you just put your Discuss short name in there, and it will actually start to appear, and it'll look like a Discuss section. Or you can do, like I said, you can do your Facebook, which is Facebook comments. And there you go. You can see that because I've already added my Facebook information in my settings behind the scene, it's already come in here. So I could do that. And I'm actually going to leave that there because I've never put comments on my blog before, but I probably should have. So let's do that. And you know what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually just going to put a divider in above that. And I'm going to put some spacing. So typically when I use a divider, I kind of put 40 above and below. It kind of is a nice kind of spacing element to me. It gives us enough white space. So that's something else that you could do. So what will happen now is that this is your post information here, and for every single post there will now be Facebook comments on it. So even posts that I've posted before this, it doesn't matter because this layout applies to every single blog post on your website. So it doesn't matter when they were created. So if you've done this now and you've already got 100 blog posts, doesn't matter. This change will still affect everything. So that's just worth knowing. It will affect everything. Now, typically, what these this connection is when we do once we actually move into creating our post, this will make more sense. But if I just click on this little thing here, now it's saying, now my connected data is the post title, okay? And this one is the post author line, which is when you can see that is the author and the post published date. And that's just a search box that doesn't have any connection. So what happens here, now we're happy with this, we're going to save that, that's all good. And it does automatically save, but we just need to click done. Okay, and we're going to come back over here. Now, if I came into this is a post I've already done. Now, to show you what I mean, this title here, that is what appears up here in that box. And what was the other thing? Oh, the author date that's simply who you're logged in as. So it takes your name off your login and the published time and date that you published. So if I go to edit post, this here, that was my title. So that's why that's appearing here. And this is my post author information. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And you can see as you come down here, now that we're in a post, all these things that we could edit in the layout, we now can't edit because they're grayed out, because they're editable in the layout, not in the actual post. And we're in an actual post now. Okay, so what we actually need to do is, let's just go back to the layout for a minute. The one thing I want to make sure, see this pops up all the time, drives me crazy. So what we actually want to do is if the first time you're setting up your blog, your layout in particular, what we actually want to do is we want to make sure that this title here is a heading 1. So if you're just setting this up, it probably isn't a heading 1 by default. Now you can't really find that out by clicking on it. You know, most headings you can kind of click on it and it gives you, because it's connected, we can't do that, okay? All we need to do is actually disconnect it, sorry. So we just scroll down and we just come to none. Okay, click done, and then when you come back in here again, now you can see it is a heading. It's got all the features of a heading. So by default, I think these are a heading 2. So if you haven't edited the layout of your blog post layout yet, this will probably be a heading 2. So all we just want to do is just highlight it and make sure it's a heading 1. If it's a 2, just bring it up to a 1. Okay, and see how it says a new title. That's fine. There's nothing in there. That's just how it comes on. Now, weirdly, this kind of connector thing doesn't really work here. So what you need to do is just click the tick, and then we want to just right click and connect to data, and then we come back down and we're going to connect to the post title, and done. And you can see now this has changed to post title, where I think it said new title before. So it's connected now. And what you'll also notice is if we click in here, you see it's back to just the connected data. It doesn't show you any idea of whether that's heading or text or whatever it is. So just to recap, if you think this might be a heading 2, just disconnect it, come in here, down, go back, none, disconnect it. I'm not going to do it because I just did it. Change it to a H1 and then come back, right click. Oh, it will be add connection, I think, instead of change connection, and change it to the post title again. Okay, this by default will be there anyway. That doesn't matter what level of heading that is, so that's all good. So that's just one thing you have to consider before you move forward. Okay, so now we've kind of done our layout. We're fairly happy with that. We're going to come to our actual posts. So I'm going to do a new post. So we're going to go new post. Okay, and this is the title. So just remember that once you add this in, this is what that page title is going to be. So don't be too long-winded here. Try and be quite concise about what your blog is. So this is new SEO. I'm just making this up. Sorry, I'm going to start at the beginning. That'll do. And then this is me. If you've got more than one, you can choose no author if you don't want to allocate anyone. I always just leave it on me by default. If you've got multiple people, you can normally only choose yourself or none unless you are the super admin, in which case you may be able to select another user. I honestly couldn't tell you that for sure because it's just me. So no one else does my blog. And then this is where you would post your main image. Now what your main image is, sorry, let's just select one first. I'm just going to choose something random. This is a sign we've been looking for, 1920, yep. Now what you actually want to do, if it's one of your own images, like if I come in here, see they do still give you the size. Now they are all specifically for, they're not header images, so that you can see they're not very wide, 452, 546, things like that. You need to have an image that's 1920 wide here. It will scale down, but images don't scale up. They just start to look rubbish. So you need to make sure it is at least 1920 wide. If it's wider, that doesn't matter. I'll show you we can edit it, but it needs to be at least 1920. So let's just choose a wider one, just so we know. And when we choose it, you can see all the info over here. Now this was just a stock photo from Unsplash. This is one of the free images. I'm happy to use that, that's fine. Okay, and then we're going to click start. And just give it a second. Now that isn't showing that image very well, so I've done something weird there. I'll have to go back and have a look at that. But typically this section here is where that image would display. It would display all the way across it. So yeah, I added a background or something in there daftly, so I'll have to go back and edit that in a minute. Okay, so then this is your kind of first kind of page heading. Now what I always do here as well is I always change this to a H2. Okay, now you can't change that it just always starts as a H3, always start it as a H2, simply because you want to use your heading hierarchy. So you've used your H1 up here, and I want to use a H2 here. Now from this point forward, just think of it as a table of contents. A H2 is like a new subject, and then like a heading underneath that is kind of like a H3, and you might use 3 H3s and go back to H2 because it's like a new section. So just think about like a table of contents, you know, like you've got your main heading, and then underneath that is a H2, and there might be 2 or 3 H3s, and then you're back to H2 because it's a new subject. That's kind of how it's laid out. Now these aren't as important as having your H1 on there, and you can use as many H2 or H3s as you like, but it is a good idea to try and get into this habit of making at least this one a H2. What this does is it reinforces to Google, here's your H1 tag. So this is what you're saying to Google and to your client that this blog is about. Then here you're going to reinforce it. So we might do, oh, can't spell either. Okay, so that's what we're going to do there. So we've kind of said it's it's their latest SEO update. We've kind of said they've got new, actually we should have put update there, not edit. So we're kind of repeating ourselves a little bit, but it's not, it's still readable for our clients. It doesn't kind of look like we're kind of forcing it. Now this doesn't have to be the same as the same image up here, but typically what happens for an RSS feed, so when I use my Feedly, for example, and I'm scrolling through my blog post, the first image in your post, so not in the header, in your post, is the image that is displayed that is showing your clients what that post is. So it's going to display this image, your header and the first kind of paragraph, or just, it could be truncated depending on how they have their Feedly settings. This is where you should put a nice image about your latest update. So I'm just going to search for Google. They're all a bit, not really. These are all free. I might use that one. Oh, actually, no, the one below it I like better. Typically, no, found something I like better underneath. This one. I'm going to use that one. Okay, now this is a really good example. See how long that image is? That's not really kind of what I want. So I do like I was going to say Smarties, but they're M&Ms, I guess. So I'm going to edit it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to transform and I'm going to kind of pull this down a bit. Pull that. I still want the Google to be visible there. And back. And save. Now typically these do take a little bit of time to save when you edit it. I think what it probably does is it saves the image and renames it and places it back in the folder that you're using, and I think it actually creates kind of like a whole new image from what you've edited. So typically it does, I mean it's okay now, but it does take a little bit of time, so that's quite normal. And then you can actually link that image as well if you want to link to anything else. At this point you probably don't, but don't forget your alt text. So latest update explained here. That'll do. Now, there is a weird little thing with the platform. I always leave captions out of here now, primarily because if you do put it in with just this image, they never show. So I'm always nervous that it's going to, at some point they're going to fix it and it's going to look really ugly and I'm not going to know, and I'm going to have to go back and fix, 100 blog posts. So I just leave the caption empty. So always use your alt text. Your tooltip is literally what is when you hover. See that's come up there, Google's latest. That's kind of, so you can do that a little bit differently. But your alt text is for the visually impaired screen readers, and your tooltip is what appears on hovers. So there's some debate as to whether tooltip actually matters in SEO, but it's still a good practice to use it. Okay, so we've got that in here, and then this is where the body of my blog goes. Now the very first thing I always do is I always come in and put a spacer in there, because by default there isn't one. Typically I think 35 is a good amount of space there. But it looks ugly if the text is just too close. So now you can just come in here and you can just drag in widgets and do whatever you want. So you might want to put a heading, where am I? Here I am. Put a new heading under there. So we're going to assume that this is, more than just that paragraph. It's going to be a bit more. This is our heading 3 because that's what we dragged on. So I'm just going to put whatever in here. If you want to actually split it into columns, you're going to have to add an inner row below. So this is already an inner row, you see. So you just right click and add row below. Okay, and it will add it. Here it is now. And then if you want to make multiple columns, I always just clear the padding first. You see that's taken it out. And then if you can either left click and then use the little cog to add column. And now it's 2 columns, or you can right click and add column, whichever you want to do, whatever you want to do. And then you can actually just kind of slide the length of your columns here. If you kind of, like you might want to put an image in here. Say we're just going to put a picture in here. That'll do. Oh, that's a vertical one, not not to worry. I could also link that image, and don't forget, I would always put my alt text and tooltip in as well. The caption, again, I tend to not use captions if I'm using an image and text, because I feel like I'm just explaining that here. I don't necessarily want to explain it on the image as well, and then kind of risk weird alignment. So I'm going to put text over here. And then that would be, sorry, I'm just going to write some text in there. Um, and then if I wanted to go back to one column again, all I do is then add a row below again. And by default, it always adds it as one column. And then I'm just going to clear my padding, and then I can go again. So you can just work through creating your blog posts like that. That's pretty easy. And then if you have a Pinterest pin that you would like to put, like typically, like I say, I tend to put one at the bottom. So if you scroll down here, this is my Pinterest pin, and I do always actually put a caption on this one. I can't click on it because it's live, sorry. So I do tend to put a caption on this one. So I put my alt tag and my tooltip, which you can see there, and then I do actually put a caption on that as well. Just, a little bit of encouragement for people to try and get them to pin it. But it is a good place to kind of put them, because by the time people get down here, it doesn't feel too spammy to them. I think that's what I started doing. I was putting it at the top, and I think a client very kindly rang me and said, that really annoys me. I feel like before I've even started reading, you're trying to talk me into doing something. And I thought, yep, fair enough. I really hate that. So I moved them down to the bottom. So I think that's what happened now I think about that. You can do, I've done the bullet points here. There's a heading 2. These are all my heading 3s. Don't forget to space stuff out appropriately. Don't put just rough. This is probably more text than I would usually use. However, it's not more text than I would usually use. It's more text than I would usually use without an image breaking it up. But the point of this is actually talking about overcoming a bad review. And I couldn't really find any images that were super relevant without making it feel like I just stuffed an image in there. So again, kind of use your common sense. Your clients are smart. They'll work it out. And this is actually a really good story. So I've found that a lot of people have actually got back to me on this post. And I feel like if I had to start putting random images in just to kind of flesh it out, they probably would have stopped reading. So that's actually really good to read if you haven't read that yet. Anyway, sorry, doing a bit of self-promotion there. Okay, so then you can just, like I say, just move through and fill out your blog as you want it to be. Now at the bottom of this, like I don't tend to do it on my Geek Queen, but on my travel website, what I will often do is this row here in particular. I'll add my divider in. I always kind of use my divider as a bit of spacing device. So I put 40 top and bottom. And then what I'll often do is I'm going to add a heading. I'm going to change. Oh, sorry. I hate how that layout thing appears. Oh, more per post. And then I'm going to change that to a 2, because this is the last category. And then I'm going to come down to my widgets, and I'm going to drag this recent posts on. Now, while that says recent posts, you can set this up to be whatever you want. So if this is about SEO, for example, I could come in here and find where is my SEO tag? There it is. Okay. And then what that's going to do is that's going to, that should say SEO, not XYZ. Okay. And then if I just click in here to get the box back again, and then any blog post I've got about SEO is going to appear in here. Now there's quite a few because that's a subject I blog about a lot. So what I can actually do here is I can come up into design, and I'm going to say let's make 8 visible because I'm going to change this to a 4 column. So I'm going to change this to a 4 column, and then the visible teaser lines here, these lines here, so it's saying how many lines can you see there, and the posts per row I've put 4, and visible posts I've changed to 8 so that there's 2 columns, and then it's just show more underneath. I really hate how there's like some and then like 1 or 2 or just 1, and it just looks ugly to me. Things have to look nice. I can't cope otherwise. So I've kind of decided I'm going to do 4 posts, so then 8 visible posts equals 2 rows effectively. You can increase the padding, so the padding is just a space between the posts. And then in the style here, you can change the background color, which is the background color of the entire box. So I could change that, for example, and you can see, oh, actually, sorry, that's the background color of the information box. I don't want that pink, that's hideous. The border, so I could put a border. And then the border is 1 pixel. That's fine. I'm happy with 1 pixel. You can make the corners rounded. You can turn off or on the shadows. That's a shadow off. That's a shadow on. I like the shadow. It's just a thing I like. And then the images, you can kind of control how big the images are, what the hover effect is on them, the text, all that kind of stuff. So you could do everything you can normally do in your any kind of normal widget that you use, you can pretty much do in here. So that's pretty easy, and you can also change the layout, so you can change how it appears. So if you want just 2 side by side, if you want them to appear kind of horizontally or in a slider, beware of the slider. I've done that for a couple of people who thought it was really flash and fancy, but it's really reduced their click-through rate because I think people just don't realize it is a slider, and they don't really want to do the effort. They've got to the bottom of the post, and if they can see something by scanning quickly, they seem to click on it, but the slider does seem to really plummet your click-through rate at the bottom of this, so I would say probably don't use that. And then, so that's going to give the clients option to see more posts about SEO, so you can put that on there as well. And that's typically, like I say, I don't tend to do that on my Geek Queen posts, but I do it on my travel website because there's just, like if it's Spain, there's probably 60 posts on Spain. So if they've read something about Spain, I want them to try and get them to continue through the website. Okay, so then once you've done that, we're just going to click done. Okay, now there is a method in my madness. There is a real reason that I do the post first before the settings, is because I find as you're typing, as you're doing headings and as you're typing and putting all your images and everything in, by the time you get to this point that you're going to come into your post settings here, it's quite established in your head of what you've been doing. So as I come in, these are my settings. So this is all the behind the scenes stuff about my post. So this is my URL. So you can see already that's kind of weird because I've put an apostrophe in there, so it's made that into a hyphen. I'm going to take that out, and I'm also going to change this to updates. Now the trick here is to always do this, it's not 100% set in stone, but to try and do this before you publish a post. Once you've published it, you can come in and change this at any time. However, if someone has bookmarked this post or saved it, if you change your URL, you risk that if you're doing this like a month down the track because you've come back and thought, no, that really would be better for SEO if I change that, you need to do a redirect, because if you don't do a redirect and someone saved it, they're going to come back in here, especially like from someone like a feed reader like myself. I save it and then I come back in and the URL is different, and it's not going to find it. It's just going to go to a 404 error page. So if you change this after your post has been published, you must do a 301 redirect, which is in another video. If you check my YouTube channel, I'll show you how to do that. So you can use nested URL paths. I don't recommend that because Google's not a fan of that anymore. So this actually appears as there's no blog section in there. So this is just a page. This just looks like a page on my website. So it's geekqueen.com.au/ Google's new SEO update. So it doesn't go /bog/ 2020 /November like Google likes things to be simple and easy. So I would not recommend using a nested URL path. I would always just use this one by default. So then we're going to come down. So this is the thing we started with before. We started with the title, and that was us and the main image. They're the things we did when we started our post. So now we're down into the metadata section. So this is where I normally put my my Pinterest pin. So I'm just going to choose a random one. This will do. Okay, and then this is what appears in any feed reader. So if that isn't big enough, it will be the first image in your blog post that is big enough. But Pinterest, typically you would do a Pinterest pin as like 2 to 3. So you would do it like 1,000 wide times 1,500 high. That would be when I'm creating Pinterest pins. That's the size I use. So that is big enough for Google to, or any feed reader, to grab that as your main pin, as your main image. But if that is small, if that is like 450 wide, I think the cutoff is like 600 pixels. So if that is smaller and the first image in your blog post is bigger, that's what it will use. However, you don't really want to confuse the issue. So what you really should do is whatever you don't, and you don't have to use your Pinterest pin here. You can use anything you like. But what you should do is make sure that this is a decent size, unless you want it to use the one in your post, in which case you just use the same image here. I wouldn't recommend leaving that blank. So by default, whatever you do as the main image, which is in your header, actually it automatically puts in here. So this is your chance to actually make something different. So something that's more attractive to your client, something's maybe going to grab their attention a bit more, or be align with your colors or something like that, to create some continuity. You could use that there. And then this one is only in your header. Okay, and don't forget your alt text. So this is, whoops, SEO. Now, the reason I'm putting the date there is that that is actually a big search thing. People often, especially with SEO, they will often search using the date, so that's the reason I'm putting the date there. So don't feel like that you have to, unless it's something that is evolutionary, that is going to change all the time, and people are literally going to look for, if you're doing a camera review, you would put, the month and the year, because people go best cameras 2020 or best cameras, kind of thing. So that is a good idea for stuff like that. If it's fairly evergreen content, no need to do that. I'm just doing that because typically that's what an SEO search would involve. And then in here, this is where I'm going to put my couple of paragraphs. So I always struggle with algorithm. Okay, so all I've kind of done here is mention that it's Google, it's their algorithm. I've said their main algorithm, that, it's not like they have a million. Well, actually, I guess they kind of do, because they have all different scenarios that kind of make up one outcome, I guess. But it's just something that people might search for. And it's having effects, which it is, and I've asked people to read it, find out what it's affected and how they can counteract, and drop in traffic is a big phrase there, because that's what people might be searching for. Google update, drop in traffic. Like that's probably a big thing. So this is where like I say, your meta description, this is all about your information. So while you actually do want to use your key phrases here, you are still writing for the purpose of getting people to click through. So don't be so obsessed with keywords that you don't format it in an easy to read manner that will encourage people to go, that sounds like something I could read and not be confused by. So just remember that you're writing for your client. And your post tags, these have recently been updated, which is absolutely wonderful. So now, do I have a Google one? I do have a Google one. And I could add a new tag in here. Update. You can see it says new tag. So if I just push enter, that will just add that as a new tag. I'm just going to take that out because it won't actually save it as a tag until you save your post. So I don't actually want that there. And then what you would actually do is to come in and publish. Now I'm not going to publish it because this is just nothing. I don't want it live, but then you would publish it. If you're actually doing multiple posts and you're just doing them, like you're writing in 10 posts and you're just going to come in every Wednesday and publish them, it's quite fine quite fine for you to leave them sitting there as a draft. So if you leave it as a draft, you can just come in. You can literally just click publish here. You don't have to go all the way in. So if you just had them all kind of, queued up here, you could just go to the bottom one and click publish. Next Wednesday, click publish. You can work through it like that. These other little icons here, that's just a preview, what it's going to look like. So there we go. I've definitely done something with that background. I must work out what I did there. It was fine yesterday, so I was doing some edits yesterday, so I think I've done something daft. So this is what it's actually going to look like when it's live. So that kind of gives you a good indication. And I've got 2 comment blocks there. That's interesting. I have to research what I've done there. That's the one that's going to be on all posts, and that's the one. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to check that out. And then you can just go back to your post. So that's just your preview. And I'm just going to, when you go back, it does actually go back to the post, not to the managed posts area though. This here is to duplicate. So if you have something that you do monthly, like it might be, the current month roundup, you can just duplicate that. It'll just create a new version and you can just go in and edit it. But don't forget to edit the settings as well. And then of course this is to delete it. Now I'm going to delete this one because I don't want to do anything else with it. So I am going to delete it. It's going to ask me if I want to. Yes, I absolutely do. And there we are. So we're back kind of at the manage posts. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to come into my layout here and see what I've done with, got it. That's so annoying. See what I've done with this. It's not anywhere else, is it? Oh, look, I did. I put one in a row down the bottom. Actually, I like that being a bit wider. So I'm going to come back in here and get rid of this one. And is there a divider there? No, but there's the my social icons anyway, so I'm going to get rid of the divider as well. Okay, so that explains why that was there. And then by default, it does have this. I've put a row down the bottom, which has got, like previous blog posts that are kind of like handy. I understand now the reason I put that there is because what I always do is might put that inside my post. I might put that, you might like these new other blog posts, and then there's the comments, and then there's just the, the last by in order of, when they were received. So that when they were written, so they don't actually have any filter applied. So that's just all the blog posts. And then in my post, like I say, I might put one in that's got a tag that's relevant to that article. So that's why I would have put this down the bottom, because just to have that little bit of separation, otherwise it just looks really confusing. So there you go. So yeah, it's pretty easy. So I hope that kind of shows you what you can do with your blog layout. Now it is relatively important that you do the layout first. If you have challenges with it, just kind of do a bit of a rough, what you'd like it to look like on a piece of paper or what have you, and just send it through, and I'm happy to just do that the one time for you, no problem. This import posts, you can actually import from an RSS feed. So if you had, where might you do? I don't know if Medium is it appropriate. Let's just say, oh, I know. Let's just say you had your blog on Blogger or there's another one. What's it called? Oh, I can't think now, but I think Blogger is Google's blogging platform, and you had your blog on there, and then you decided you were going to update to a whole new website, but you don't want to manually write all your blog posts across, and you're happy if you do them on Blogger. It means you're kind of a little bit exposed on people that are searching there, so you want to stay there. What you can do is import your posts into here, so you can put that RSS feed in, and then it actually adds all the posts into your website. Now the challenge with this is that, as far as I'm aware, it does only remain here as long as the content is live where it is coming from, because it's a feed. It's not actually copying everything and bringing it in, it's just showing the information. So if you were to turn off your blogger, this information would just disappear because it has to be live. So I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so move on, get your blogs happening. And don't forget, monthly is good, fortnightly is great, weekly is almost ideal. We want to be introducing new content as often as we can. Minimum, try to go for a minimum of 1,000 words. They say 2,000 to 3,000 is ideal, but honestly, that is quite unrealistic for a lot of subjects. Don't be scared to use your images. Make sure your images are appropriate, though. Make sure you add your alt tags on your images. And don't forget that you can just, even though you can't schedule posts in advance, you can just put 20 or 30 drafts in here, and then give yourself a little calendar reminder that pops up in your email, and every Wednesday morning or Thursday or whatever day you do it, you just come in here and just set the next one live. You do have to set them live from your desktop, though. You can't set blog posts live from the app, so that's worth knowing. Okay, I hope that goes well, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.